The first time I saw the bruises, I didn't recognize my own sister. She stood in my kitchen doorway, shoulders hunched, sunglasses still on even though it was nearly midnight. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped her keys twice before finally setting them down on the counter. I remember thinking she looked smaller somehow, like the life had been slowly drained out of her. And when she finally took off the sunglasses, my stomach dropped. Purple and yellow fingerprints bloomed along her cheekbone, a split lip, hastily hidden under cheap lipstick, fading marks on her neck that no amount of turtlenecks could explain away. She didn't cry. That was the part that scared me most. She just whispered, "I can't do this anymore." For a long moment, the room was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. I didn't ask what happened. I already knew. I'd suspected it for months, the canceled visits, the rehearsed excuses, the way her voice always sounded like she was walking on broken glass whenever she mentioned her husband. But knowing something in your bones is very different from seeing proof staring back at you in the face. I told her to sit down. I grabbed ice. I told myself to stay calm. But inside, something ugly and feral woke up. Because the truth was, my sister and I looked identical. Same height, same face, same voice cadence, same scar on our left eyebrow from when we were kids. The kind of identical that made people do double takes. The kind that had fueled a lifetime of pranks and mistaken identities. And as I stared at the bruises he'd put on her, a thought crossed my mind, quiet at first, then louder, then impossible to ignore. What if he couldn't tell us apart anymore? She stayed with me that night. Barely slept. Neither did I. By morning, I'd already made up my mind, even though I hadn't said it out loud yet. I watched her wrap her arms around herself as if trying to hold her body together, and I knew one thing for certain. Walking away wouldn't be enough. Not for him. Not after what he'd done. Some people deserve consequences they don't see coming. And sometimes justice doesn't look like a courtroom. Sometimes it looks like a mirror. Before I go any further, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Cynthia. I'm the twin who didn't marry him. I'm the twin who didn't take the hits. And I'm the twin who decided that if he thought he could make my sister's life a living hell, then maybe it was time someone returned the favor. Because what we were about to do wasn't just a plan. It was a performance. And he was about to become the star of the most convincing lie he'd ever believe. My sister showed up at my place in Portland with nothing but a tote bag and a dead-eyed calm that didn't belong on her face. We grew up in Boise, the kind of childhood where you learn early how to laugh loud so people don't notice what you're feeling. Back then, she was the brave one, the twin who could talk to anyone, who never flinched, who'd jump off the rope swing first and only turn around after she'd hit the water. Now she sat at my kitchen table, turning a mug of coffee between her palms like it was a life raft. Her hands were still trembling. She kept her sleeves pulled down even though it wasn't cold. "Tell me," I said gently. She didn't. Not at first. She stared at the steam rising off the cup like it could form a sentence for her. Then she swallowed. And when she finally spoke, the words came out clipped like she'd practiced them in the mirror 100 times, and still didn't believe she deserved to say them. "It's getting worse," she whispered. I waited. I didn't rush her. I'd learned the hard way that you don't pry open a wound, you make space and let it breathe. She nodded toward her phone on the table. "He's texting. He thinks I'm at the gym." My jaw tightened. "What happens if you don't answer?" A faint, humorless smile pulled at one corner of her mouth. "He'll come looking. Or he'll punish me when I get home. Depends on his mood." There it was. The casual way she said it, like it was a weather report. My blood went cold. I wanted to say his name, like it was a curse. I wanted to ask why she stayed, why she hadn't called me sooner, why she'd let it go this far. But I didn't. Because victims don't need your why. They need your what now. So I asked, "Do you want to leave him?" She stared at me like I'd asked her to jump off a cliff. Then she nodded once. Small. Almost invisible. "Yes," she said. "But I'm scared." "Of him?" She gave a little laugh that sounded like it hurt. "Of everything. Of leaving. Of staying. Of being alone. Of him telling everyone I'm crazy." She swallowed. "He already started that, Brit." My stomach dropped. Because I knew that playbook. Make her doubt herself. Make everyone else doubt her too. Turn her into the problem so he could stay the solution. "Who knows?" I asked. "Not many. He doesn't like me airing private matters." Her fingers tightened around the mug. "But his sister knows something. She's seen the way he talks to me. And she just looks away." I leaned back, fighting the urge to punch a hole through my own wall. "Where is he right now?" At work. He'll be home around 6. Her eyes flicked to the clock. It wasn't even 10 yet. If I'm not there when he gets home, he'll... She cut off like her throat had slammed shut. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. You're safe here. She flinched at the word safe, like she didn't trust it. You don't understand. He tracks me. My phone, my car, everything. He'll show up. And if he thinks you're helping me, He won't, I said, and my voice came out firmer than I expected. Not here. She studied me for a second, and I realized she was searching my face for something. Fear, doubt, hesitation, but she didn't find it, because I didn't have any. What I had was rage. The kind you keep under your ribs until it turns into something sharp. I stood and went to the window. My neighborhood was quiet, small craftsman houses, dog walkers, a couple of kids on scooters. Normal life. The kind of life my sister had been pretending she still lived. Behind me, her voice cracked. He says nobody will believe me. He says I'm lucky he loves me. I turned back slowly. What does he do when he's sorry? That question made her shoulders stiffen. He cries, she said, like she was ashamed of the answer. He buys flowers. He cooks dinner. He says he hates himself. He says he'll change. She looked down. And sometimes he's perfect for a while. That's the worst part, Britt. When he's good, I think maybe I made it up. I felt my nails bite into my palm. You didn't make it up. She blinked hard. I know. But he's good at it. I sat back down, closer to her now, lowering my voice. Listen to me. You are not crazy. You are not difficult. You are not too sensitive. You're surviving. Her eyes welled, but still she didn't cry. She just looked exhausted. I took a breath. Okay. Here's what we're going to do first. We're going to get you a new phone. A cheap one. We're going to turn yours off. We're going to check your car for trackers. We're going to start documenting everything. Her head snapped up. He'll notice. Let him, I said. Because this stops now. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. Then she whispered, You don't get it. He's charming. Everyone loves him. At church. At work. Then we won't rely on everyone, I said. We'll rely on proof. She nodded slowly, but her face still looked like someone standing on train tracks, hearing the rumble in the distance. And that's when I saw it, the tiniest flicker of something else under her fear. Not hope, something darker, something like anger, like she was finally letting herself hate him. She swallowed. If I leave, he'll make me pay. I leaned in. What if he thought you didn't leave? Her eyes narrowed slightly. What? I stared at her face. My face. Same cheekbones, same mouth, same eyes. She'd always been the softer version of us. But right now, bruised and hollowed out, she looked like the aftermath of a storm. And still, unmistakably, she looked like me. My heart started beating faster. Not from fear, from possibility. Cynthia, she said carefully. What are you thinking? I held her gaze. I'm thinking. He's been so busy tearing you down, he forgot something. She swallowed. What? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. He forgot you have a twin. Her breath caught. No, I shrugged, like it was the simplest idea in the world. Why not? Her eyes widened. Because that's insane. Is it? I kept my voice level. He wants control. He wants predictability. He wants you terrified and obedient. So, what happens if the version of you he comes home to isn't the one he trained? My sister's lips parted, but nothing came out. I could see the gears turning, the panic trying to overtake her, then something else sliding in. Curiosity, temptation, and then she whispered, barely audible, he'd lose his mind. I nodded. Exactly. She shook her head quickly. Britt, he'll hurt you. I tilted my head. Will he? She stared at me, and for the first time since she walked through my door, she looked truly afraid for me. And that was when I knew she still had enough of herself left to fight. I lowered my voice. I'm not saying we do something reckless. I'm saying we do something smart. I paused. We changed the rules without him knowing the game changed. My sister swallowed hard. You don't understand what he's capable of. I reached across the table again, this time gripping her hand like an anchor. I understand one thing perfectly. She met my eyes. I understand that he thinks you're alone. And I let the silence sit there, heavy and loaded, because sometimes the most dangerous plans don't start with action. They start with someone finally realizing they have options. She whispered, What would we even do? I took a slow breath. And that's when I said the words that changed everything. We switched places. Her eyes flashed. For how long? Long enough, I said, to make him regret ever laying a hand on you. She stared at me like she was looking at a stranger. But then she looked down at her bruises, and when she looked back up, her voice was quiet, steady, and terrifying in its clarity. Okay, she said. Tell me what you need me to do. We didn't rush into it. That was the first rule. If we were going to do this, if we were going to step into each other's lives and fool a man who'd spent years studying my sister's every reaction, we had to be meticulous. Careful. Cold. By noon, her phone was powered off and wrapped in aluminum foil inside my freezer. Paranoid? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. We drove to a strip mall in Beaverton and bought a prepaid phone with cash. No names. No contacts. No cloud backups. I watched her flinch when the clerk asked if she wanted to register it. She's not used to having choices, I realized. That hurt more than the bruises. Back home, we laid everything out on my living room floor like evidence. Her clothes, her keys, her wallet, the spare credit card he allowed her to keep, the little notebook where she'd started logging dates and incidents in cramped handwriting. She hesitated before handing me her wedding ring. He notices everything, she said. The way I twist it when I'm nervous. The way I take it off before I shower. I slid it onto my finger. Perfect fit. Then I'll notice everything too. We practiced the small stuff first. The way she answered questions. The way she said okay instead of yeah. The way she paused before speaking when she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. She corrected me constantly at first, then less and less as the hours passed. By evening, my reflection in the mirror didn't feel like me anymore. It felt like armor. We went over his routines next. What time he got home, where he put his keys, which mood meant danger, and which meant performative affection. She told me how he liked his dinner plated protein first, vegetables separate, sauce wiped from the rim. She told me which jokes to laugh at and which to politely smile through. And don't contradict him in front of anyone, she added quietly. Ever. I looked at her. What happens if I do? Her silence answered for her. The plan was simple in theory. She would stay with a friend 2 towns over someone he didn't know well while I drove her car back to their house in Hillsborough. I'd be her. Same clothes, same hair, same posture, same life. Just long enough, she kept saying, like a prayer. Long enough to gather proof. Long enough to unsettle him. Long enough for her to get a head start on disappearing. At 5:42 p.m., I pulled into their driveway. My heart was hammering so hard I was afraid he'd hear it through the walls. The house looked normal. Too normal. Trim lawn. Neutral paint. Wind chimes on the porch. The kind of place people drove past and thought, they must be happy. I unlocked the door with her key and stepped inside. The smell hit me first, lemon cleaner, and something savory simmering on the stove. My sister had cooked. Of course she had. I moved through the house slowly, touching things, grounding myself. Photos on the wall. Their wedding picture, her smiling too wide. Him gripping her waist just a little too tight. I filed that away. His keys hit the counter at 6:03. Hey, he called out, cheerful. You beat me home. I forced my shoulders to relax. Traffic was light. He stepped into the kitchen. Up close, he was underwhelming. Medium height. Clean cut. The kind of face people trusted without thinking twice. He leaned in to kiss my cheek, and every muscle in my body screamed. I let it happen. How was your day? He asked, already opening the fridge. Fine, I said, soft, careful. Yours? Long, he sighed. You wouldn't believe the idiots I deal with. He glanced at the stove. You made dinner? Yes. He smiled, approving. Good. I'm starving. We sat down to eat. I watched him from behind lowered lashes, studying the way he moved, the way he spoke, the subtle entitlement, the expectation that the world and especially his wife would orbit him. Halfway through the meal, he frowned. Why are you sitting like that? My pulse spiked. Like what? He gestured vaguely. All stiff. You're usually more relaxed. I tilted my head, mimicking her habit. Just tired. He studied me for a beat too long. Then he shrugged. You should have gone to the gym. You're always in a better mood after. There it was. Control wrapped in concern. After dinner, he reached for my hand. I almost pulled away. Come sit with me, he said, already leading me toward the couch. I sat. He draped an arm around my shoulders, squeezing just a little too tight. Testing. I let my body go slack the way my sister had taught me. "You've been distant lately," he said casually. "You know that?" "I know." He smiled without warmth. "I just worry about you. You get so emotional." I looked at him then. Really looked. And I did something my sister never would have done. I held his gaze. "I've been thinking," I said evenly. His arm stiffened. "About what?" "About us." A flicker of irritation crossed his face before he smoothed it out. "That doesn't sound good." "It is," I said. "I just want things to be better." He relaxed slightly. "See? That's what I like to hear." I smiled, but inside, I was mapping exits, memorizing angles, noting the way his confidence relied entirely on my submission. That night, when he fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, every nerve buzzing. Her phone buzzed once on the nightstand. A message from the prepaid. "You okay?" my sister wrote. I typed back with shaking fingers. "I'm in." The next morning, I did something small. I forgot his coffee. Not on accident. He noticed immediately. "You didn't make it?" he asked, irritation sharp. "Oh," I said lightly. "I thought you could make it yourself today." He blinked, thrown off balance. "I was running late," I added, still calm. "You know how it is." His jaw tightened. "Since when do you forget?" I shrugged. And just like that, I saw it, the crack. Confusion, bleeding into annoyance. It was tiny, insignificant, but it was the first time his world didn't behave the way he expected it to. And I knew then, this wasn't just about protecting my sister anymore. This was about unmaking him, slowly, carefully, from the inside. Once the pattern broke, it didn't take much to watch everything unravel. The forgotten coffee turned into missed check-ins. Missed check-ins turned into delayed responses. Delayed responses turned into something far more dangerous to him than disobedience. Uncertainty. By day 3, he was pacing. I could see it in the way his jaw clenched when I didn't immediately answer his texts. In the way he hovered in doorways, watching me like he was trying to relearn a map he'd memorized years ago. "Are you mad at me?" he asked one night, pretending to joke. I looked up from the book I was reading. "Why would I be mad?" He shrugged too quickly. "You've just been different." Different. The word tasted sweet. "I told you," I said calmly. "I'm trying to be better. Healthier." He didn't like that answer. It didn't give him anything to push against. The next escalation came when I started saying no. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just, "No. No. I don't feel like going to your coworker's dinner." "No, I'm tired." "No, I'll do it later." Each refusal landed like a pebble dropped into still water, ripples spreading through him. He'd sigh loudly, roll his eyes, mutter under his breath. Then he'd overcorrect flowers, compliments, forced apologies. The cycle my sister described was playing out exactly as promised. Only this time, it wasn't working. One afternoon, he grabbed my wrist. Not hard, not enough to leave a mark. But the intent was there. "You're being really difficult lately," he said quietly, eyes cold. "I don't like this version of you." I met his gaze, steady as stone. "Then maybe you should ask yourself why." He froze. I felt it then, the shift. The moment he realized something was wrong but couldn't quite name it. His grip loosened. He took a step back like he'd touched a live wire. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom and texted my sister. "He's slipping," I wrote. Her response came instantly. "I'm scared." "Good," I typed back. "So is he." We started gathering evidence in earnest. I left my phone recording during his rants, took photos of the holes he punched into doors, saved voicemails where his voice dropped its mask and showed its teeth. He noticed. "You don't trust me," he accused one morning. "I want transparency," I replied. The word made him flinch. The final straw came a week later. We were standing in the kitchen when he exploded over something trivial, an overdraft fee, a misplaced receipt. His voice rose, his face flushed, his hands curling into fists. "You think you're so strong now?" he snapped. "You think you can just change the rules?" I didn't back away. "I don't think," I said softly. "I know." That's when he slapped the counter so hard a glass shattered, and I smiled. Not wide, not cruel, just enough. His eyes widened. "What's wrong with you?" I tilted my head, my sister's old habit. "You really don't recognize me anymore, do you?" The color drained from his face. That night, I didn't sleep there. Neither did my sister. She filed a police report the next morning with evidence. Screenshots, audio, photos, a timeline so tight, It left no room for his favorite defense. She's exaggerating. When officers showed up at the house, he looked stunned, betrayed, furious. He called her phone over and over. It rang on my kitchen counter, unanswered. Last I heard, he told anyone who'd listen that his wife had changed overnight, that she'd become cold, calculated, unrecognizable. He wasn't wrong, because the woman he controlled was gone, and the one who replaced her, she was done being afraid. People like to believe abuse is loud. They imagine screaming matches, black eyes that can't be hidden, neighbors calling the cops. They imagine monsters who look like monsters. But the truth, the part nobody wants to sit with, is that most abusers look ordinary. They blend in. They smile at barbecues. They hold doors open. They know exactly when to lower their voices and exactly when to raise them. He wasn't shocked because the police showed up. He was shocked because she did. Because the woman who walked into that station wasn't the one he'd spent years breaking down. She didn't apologize for existing. She didn't soften her words. She didn't look at the floor when men spoke. She told the truth, calmly, completely. And when he tried to interrupt, she didn't flinch. That part mattered more than the evidence. Because control thrives on fear, and fear dies the moment someone stops performing it. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was messy. Mutual friends didn't want to take sides. His family claimed they were shocked and needed time. He posted vague quotes online about betrayal and loyalty, and how some people change for the worse. Let him. My sister moved into a small apartment near the river. It wasn't fancy. The walls were thin, and the heat took forever to kick in. But every morning, she woke up without checking her phone first, without bracing for impact, without calculating how to exist. The bruises faded. The flinching took longer. Sometimes she'd still apologize for things that didn't require apologies. Sometimes she'd freeze when someone raised their voice, even in laughter. Healing, I learned, isn't a straight line. It's a series of small rebellions against the past. As for me, I went back to being Cynthia, but I didn't forget the version of myself that sat across from him at that table, unafraid. The one who said no without trembling. The one who looked a man who thrived on dominance straight in the eye and made him doubt himself. That version doesn't disappear once the crisis ends. She stays. Here's the part people might not like. What we did wasn't noble. It wasn't clean. It wasn't something you'd find in a self-help book. It was risky, calculated, and born out of rage as much as love. But it worked. Because sometimes, the system fails quietly. Sometimes, justice doesn't show up until someone forces the door open. If you're reading this and thinking, why didn't she just leave? Stop. That question is a luxury, a safe, distant one. The better question is, why did he think he could treat her that way and get away with it? Abuse survives in silence. It collapses under scrutiny. So if there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's this. If someone you love seems smaller than they used to be, believe that instinct. If someone tells you they're scared, listen. And if you ever find yourself wondering whether you're overreacting, ask yourself who benefits from you staying quiet. Because monsters don't fear anger. They fear clarity, and once they're seen clearly, they rarely survive it. If you want to hear what happened next, how rebuilding really looks, how freedom feels after years of control, and the mistakes nobody warns you about, stay with us. This channel doesn't just tell stories. It tells the parts people are too afraid to say out loud.